The path to an XRP worth $20,000 is being laid in secrecy, and it may only have just begun. That's correct. With just one update, Ripple might open the door to a new era in global finance, one that unites institutional scale, clear regulations, and privacy. This is more than just a development update. It's a crucial component that might alter the global movement of trillions of dollars. Your money is not being advised by this. Why? Because lately, XRP community member Chad Steinraber revealed something that rocked the cryptocurrency world. Achieving $20,000 in XRP will require a focus on privacy. Following that announcement, Ripple made an official announcement through RippleXDev stating that privacy isn't an afterthought. It is being incorporated into the XRP ledger protocol level. Before we get into the meat of this release and its significance, allow me to say something. Everything about privacy, institutional settlement, and the new trajectory of the XRP ledger is laid out for you in one location if you want to know what's going on behind the scenes and how everything fits together. This blueprint is known as the XRP Millionaire Blueprint. This text, infographic, videos, and more are all here to help you understand the potential evolution of XRP as much as possible. See the pinned comment down below the video for all the details. If you want to see how everything fits together, you should see it after this. Great, now we can dissect it. According to a post by RippleXDev, financial institutions cannot utilize public ledgers securely unless anonymity is ensured. The regulators will not sign off unless there is accountability. We can accomplish both with user-defined privacy settings. Programmable privacy is the line that has the potential to revolutionize the industry. Thanks to RippleX's Senior Director of Engineering and Cryptographer, A.J. Allis, we have this update. He is more than just a developer. His work on privacy-preserving solutions for blockchain and other platforms dates back more than a decade, and he holds a doctorate in computer science from Johns Hopkins University. He is now aiming to integrate his knowledge into the XRP ledger in order to create a foundational architecture that prioritizes privacy, scalability, and institutional use. What he said is as follows. Now that blockchain is entering its next phase, which will be characterized by widespread use and practical applications, the real question is how financial systems will transition to blockchain technology. Scalable, trustworthy, and compliant infrastructure is essential for institutions, but they must maintain the public blockchain's valuable decentralization and neutrality. Ripple is attempting to resolve this paradox because secrecy is essential to the financial sector. However, blockchains rely on openness. Give that some consideration. Financial institutions, payment processors, asset managers, and insurers are all obligated to safeguard client information, financial records, and internal financial dealings. Everything is public, though, when they examine the majority of blockchains. Anyone can view the sender, recipient, and amount of each given transaction. In the world of actual finance, that just does not cut it. For this reason, Ripple has included built-in privacy features into the XRP ledger. What does programmable privacy mean? Let's break it down now. Keeping terrible actors in the dark is not the point here. Control is the key. In other words, legitimate parties like banks, institutions, and even individual consumers can control the disclosure of information and the circumstances under which it is disclosed. Damn, that's strong. Reason being, you would never dream of accessing your bank account over the internet without using a robust encryption system such as HTTPS. However, millions of transactions take place daily in the open-source cryptocurrency market. That is resolved by Ripple's solution. They are making it possible for transactions to be private, compliant, and auditable when necessary by using technologies like trusted execution environments, TEES, and zero-knowledge proofs, CKPS. Allow me to explain it to you. If one side can prove something is true using zero-knowledge proofs, then it must be true. For instance, without disclosing the underlying private data, a transaction complies with Know Your Customer or anti-money laundering legislation. This allows financial organizations to safeguard client data while simultaneously ensuring compliance. At the same time, trusted execution environments TEES make sure that no one other than authorized parties may access the private data stored inside them, even during the validation or processing of transactions. They are the building blocks of programmable privacy when put together, integrity between privacy and regulation rather than the other way around. What does this mean for the price of XRP and its potential adoption by institutions? Reason being, this has long been anticipated by financial institutions who deal in billions and trillions of dollars. Without a balance between privacy and accountability, they will not be able to use open ledgers for cross-border settlements, asset tokenization, or liquidity management. Ripple is constructing precisely that. Crucial information was even highlighted in the update: growing without betraying confidence. The traditional trilemma of blockchain technology was indicated by Ripple: scalability, decentralization, and security. Select 2. However, this trade-off begins to vanish with ZKPS and secure computing. Protected computing environments enable sensitive financial logic to execute off-chain while generating verifiable results on-chain. That allows for simultaneous low cost, great speed, and compliance with regulations. This removes a major obstacle to the widespread use of blockchain technology. Have faith in. Massive settlement flows become possible when institutions can conduct private transactions while still verifying compliance. The XRP ledger is the hub for corporate payments, tokenization of real-world assets, stablecoin issuance, lending, and derivatives. Programmable privacy allows private DeFi, decentralized financing that retains compliance and verifiability. As Crypto Airy so eloquently put it, imagine it as a hybrid of the two extremes. Traditional banking's trust in regulators and customers' privacy combined with blockchain speed and transparency. With AI, spying, and huge tech monopolies eroding privacy, Krypton Ritter put it this way: the future of the XRP ledger feels like a breath of fresh air. Creating a financial system that values transparency and privacy without compromising either is the goal. The 20,000 XRP proposal, which is Chad Steinreber's thesis, becomes relevant at this point. It's been years since he first said this. The public retail trading of XRP was never its intended purpose. When the global financial plumbing system was first set up, institutions took over, and we retail holders were just like the warm-up pitchers. This is where the notion of supply shocks becomes relevant. The programmable privacy feature has the potential to significantly reduce the amount of XRP in circulation if it is finally used by institutions for fundamental financial operations, such as tokenizing government bonds, stable coinage, or physical assets. Demand increases dramatically while supply decreases as it processes high-value transactions. That is the equation for exponential price movement, which may theoretically propel XRP to entirely new realms. Furthermore, Ripple's update demonstrates that they are actively working on it rather than merely discussing it. In an effort to establish the XRP ledger as the de facto worldwide settlement network for regulated institutions, they are providing multi-purpose secret tokens, zero-knowledge proofs, firewall changes, and decentralized IDs. What Ripple means by institutional-grade privacy is the sum of all of this. What this means for international money transfers is enormous. In this hypothetical scenario, a Singaporean bank would pay a London-based bank $500 million in tokenized bonds. Even though they can settle promptly and prove compliance, their competitors still can't view their internal accounts or liquidity positions. Programmable privacy makes that possible because privacy is about more than simply security. It's about unlocking trust at scale. Chad Steinreber argues that it is the foundation upon which the path to 20,000 XRP can be created. The system will be used by institutions once they trust it. Request skyrockets after they put it to use. Ripple promoted its XRP ledger as the first blockchain that can manage this future, thanks to its built-in features for compliance, secrecy, and scalability. And this isn't some abstract idea. It has already begun. An attorney and crypto researcher from New York named Phil Kwok recently discussed Ripple's RLOSD stablecoin, which is built on top of the XRP ledger. According to him, RLOSD transfers take place instantaneously and cost pennies on the dollar, as contrast to the $15 or more that can be spent on a single $10 standard wire transfer. That's a whole rethinking of the payment infrastructure. It's not just a crypto benefit. Plus, Ripple is growing at a rapid pace. The Berkeley Center for Digital Assets, a new effort at UC Berkeley, was recently launched with funding of $1.3 million from their University Blockchain Research Initiative. RLOSD will be utilized to investigate blockchain-based valuation systems, tokenized assets, and digital twins. With the help of regulators, academics, and institutions, Ripple is laying the groundwork for a future financial system in which XRP and RLOSD serve as the new assets rails, not to mention how perfect the timing is. The XRP ledger has the potential to become the most reliable and compliant layer in global finance once privacy is made programmable, regulations are clarified, and tokenization speeds up. This isn't merely about transactions, it's about change in the end. The world's financial institutions are getting ready for the next era as Ripple's privacy layer takes shape. Here at XRP, we are witnessing the shift from public experimentation to institutional inclusion. Ripple has been working on a complete institutional use case for more than a decade, and the privacy update is the key that unlocks it. Let's take a closer look at the capabilities this allows. Institutions have unprecedented power when programmable privacy is integrated into a public ledger. In a private and auditable setting, you pave the way for global payments, the tokenization of real-world assets, and even loans and derivatives trading. Banks may now tokenize bonds, settle them internationally in seconds, and remain completely compliant, all while keeping their internal liquidity movements and exposure hidden from outside observers. It's a whole new degree of trust, not simply efficiency. Can it scale? Was never the most pressing concern in relation to blockchain implementation. Can the authorities have faith in it? Yes. Up until this point, the answer was no. One advantage and one disadvantage of blockchain technology was its transparency. It revealed all. But that chasm is filled by Ripple's new course of action. With the advent of zero-knowledge proofs, secret computing, and decentralized identities, regulated privacy is finally within reach, which is a prerequisite for widespread adoption by institutions. In his post on RippleX, AJ Allis was alluding to this very thing. There is no polarity between privacy and accountability, rather the two go hand in hand. When you have both, the largest financial institutions in the world will be able to intervene. What does this look like in practice? Let's discuss that now. Envision a global bank transferring hundreds of millions of dollars across its regional branches. These days it takes days and thousands of dollars and involves rapid messaging, intermediary banks, and reconciliation systems to complete the procedure. There are various potential vulnerabilities and breaches of privacy in every transaction. This identical financial institution may execute the instant, private, and provably compliant transfer on the XRP ledger because to its programmable privacy feature. Through zero-knowledge disclosure, the regulator can observe evidence of validity. Instantaneous and costing less than a penny, the counterparty gets the money in a matter of seconds. The ramifications extend well beyond monetary transactions. This is not an abstract concept. It is the product of Ripple's development. Tokenized real-world assets, such as real estate or government bonds, may be easily transferred across networks because to programmable privacy, which prevents the disclosure of sensitive information like portfolio composition or counterparties, with features like selective audit keys, regulators or auditors can only access data when it's absolutely necessary, keeping day-to-day operations private while ensuring compliance. Instead of destroying everything and starting over, financial systems improve by enhancing their internal workings. Phil Quack was making this point when he remarked that technology revolutions always build upon previous ones rather than starting from scratch. He is correct. Decentralization and speculation characterized the early days of cryptocurrency. This new age is all about integration, finding a method to combine blockchain technology with the old system so that they can work together. Instead of challenging the system, Ripple is working to improve it. And that change is taking place at this very moment. There was a lot of anarchy in the early cryptocurrency movement in 2013. The objective was to get out of the old systems. A turning point, however, occurs in 2025, 10 years later. Even organizations that were previously skeptical of cryptocurrency are beginning to use it. Authorities who were hesitant before are now drafting regulations. Even the governments who outlawed it are getting behind it in the lab. During that time, Ripple has set XRP up to be the connecting factor. Institutions may now handle liquidity, hedging, and arbitrage positions secretly via confidential token transfers and zero-knowledge verification. This allows them to avoid divulging strategy or internal books. For financial activities on a grand scale, this makes XRP more than just a speedy and cheap cryptocurrency. It's a strategic, viable option. This connects the dots between individual traders and large-scale financial settlements. there's always been a lot of conjecture and price charts surrounding XRP in the retail sector. Regarding institutions, however, issues of privacy, compliance, and trust are paramount. The ledger will evolve from a public token market into a worldwide financial backbone once these features are enabled. At that point, Chad Steinreber's plan becomes clear. The transformation of XRP from a trade token into an integral component of the financial infrastructure occurs when it assumes the role of the underlying reserve asset for tokenized liquidity. There will be a shift in the liquidity landscape away from retail traders. Banks, custodians, clearinghouses, and regulators will instead hold XRP and use it to settle actual value across networks. That is the meaning behind Steinreber's statement that XRP was never destined for retail use. We were the pioneers in providing liquidity, laying the groundwork for future institutional investors to follow. And a significant reduction in circulation occurs when this occurs. Let's try something out of the mind. Just imagine for a second that a tiny portion of the world's capital markets, $10 trillion worth, begins to tokenize on the XRP ledger. Public circulation of XRP might fall by as much as 80% if institutional custody locks it up for settlement and collateralization, even if the overall supply stays at today's levels. When that occurs, speculation is no longer a factor in determining prices. This arises as a result of utility when the pressure of demand meets the dwindling supply. Privacy is the key that unlocks all the doors, considering that no public settlement of real value can be achieved without privacy. The regulators will not provide their approval unless it complies. Together, they form Ripple's programmable privacy. Decentralization is not compromised when institutional trust and regulatory supervision are met. Because of this, the release of this update cannot be delayed. The world's regulatory frameworks are coming together. Classifications of digital assets are anticipated to be defined in the United States in the coming year through new legislation and clarifications. European countries are starting to implement the MiCA framework. When it comes to tokenized finance, the Asian Monetary Authority of Singapore is working on interoperability models. Everything there fits neatly into Ripple's plan. In order for institutions to engage, privacy must be assured. A compatible on-chain dollar is provided to them via RLUSD. In addition, XRP serves as the intermediary that turns it all into liquid. Ripple's ecosystem now has a three-layer structure: secrecy, security, and funds on hand. This approach is not an attempt to destroy conventional banking, as Phil Kwok pointed out. It makes it better. He stated that we should make do with what we have because we are in a desperate situation. Ripple has a complete grasp of that. They are not aiming to displace financial institutions. They're making financial institutions more efficient, less expensive, and globally interoperable. In this way, blockchain technology and traditional systems become one. Consider the collaboration with Berkeley. Digital twins and asset verification are the subjects of Ripple's $1.3 million in RLUSD donation. That is not meaningless rhetoric. Digital twins are exact replicas of real-world objects such as buildings, cars, and infrastructure stored digitally. Furthermore, privacy-preserving computation is required for blockchain verification of these. Examples of XRP Ledger use cases that will benefit from this research include asset-backed lending, supply chain management, and real estate tokenization. It represents a new level of practical application. The whole cryptocurrency business, however, is beginning to see privacy as the last frontier. Recent comments by Cardano founder Charles Hoskinson suggested that rational privacy and selective transparency are the missing pieces for the global integration of crypto. Financial institutions as a whole will be able to transition to blockchain technology if it is possible to distinguish between public and private data in smart contracts. In fact, that is precisely what Ripple is creating. $1 trillion worth of migration is being set up by this convergence, privacy, compliance, and scalability. Government instruments, bonds, commodities, and stocks will all start tokenizing in the coming years. Additionally, the ledgers that are able to swiftly, securely, and quietly process such transactions will be the ones to prevail. That system is being designed into the XRP ledger. With on-demand settlement, it already takes care of the liquidity issue. With programmable confidentiality, it is now resolving the privacy issue. After rules are in place, the only thing left is volume, and trust is the key to volume. From RLUSD to their confidential multi-purpose tokens, Ripple is currently focusing on winning that trust with every step they take. The XRP community's response mirrors this realization. There is a long-term alignment, and people like Crypto Airy, Chad Steinraber, and Krypton Ritter are perceiving it. The team at Ripple isn't in it for the quick buck. The foundation of institutional blockchain financing is being engineered by them. The change is nearly tangible. Speculative cycles and retail fever are out of the spotlight. Practical infrastructure, genuine collaborations, and practical uses are at the heart of this, for the simple reason that what will happen when the largest financial institutions in the world begin doing instant, private, compliant transactions on the same ledger? The unity of liquidity is achieved. International trade expands. There is no more friction during settlement. Finally, the neutral liquidity layer that makes it all feasible is XRP, the native asset of that ecosystem. That is the essence of this privacy upgrade, not merely an attribute, but a message. This ledger is trustworthy, according to the global financial system. Expand upon it. Privacy and compliance are not compromised when using it. Thus, Ripple subtly transforms the XRP ledger into an enterprise-level institutional foundation. The worst part is that privacy affects more than just the price of XRP. The reason it moves is altered. Instead of being just a currency, XRP will serve as the backbone of a new worldwide trust system once privacy is programmable and all financial institutions, including sovereign bodies, are able to settle, hedge, and trade anonymously. Take a few seconds to consider that. At this precise moment somewhere, every single large-scale international transaction is made public, documented, reviewed, and replicated. But what if executing the identical flows swiftly, confidentially, and verifiably while yet preserving compliance is possible? Engineers at Ripple are balancing on that tightrope. They are performing it with an exacting level of accuracy. The ultimate goal is not a private XRP, but rather a programmable privacy layer that can be enabled or disabled according to the jurisdiction, business case, and level of security. Banks throughout the world are transferring billions of dollars via various routes. Entire privacy setting, a financial technology firm developing tools for micro-remittances, lack of complete openness, buying something, visible and traceable. Achieving that balance requires both freedom and restriction. And that is the way to create a system that can be trusted by all parties. The more you investigate the present endeavors of Ripple's former developers, the more apparent it becomes. Plans for widespread retail speculating are not in their sights. They are developing primitives for institutional privacy. All of their efforts to improve modular ledger privacy, zero-knowledge settlement pathways, and cross-chain proofs are leading to the same goal. The cryptocurrency XRP serves as the digital economy's unseen settlement backbone. The subtle tension in the code commits is almost palpable. Nodes in the testnets. Notifications are recorded by the developer. With this level of accuracy, you can tell it is no longer an experiment. It's nearing completion. No big deal will be made when it's finished and ready. There will not be a timer. All that will happen is a little pause after which something will move. Simply put, an exchange is not the starting point for the following bull run. When 2 or 3 large institutions start making actual money with the private ledger extensions, it will start in a back room. When people understand that XRP is the most efficient bridge currency ever made because to its privacy, features, and its extremely low transaction cost, less than 1 cent. After that, liquidity will be a byproduct motivated by actual need rather than marketing fluff, for the simple reason that if any organization wishes to maintain its competitive edge, it must adopt similar practices or risk falling behind the new standards. When that happens, the age-old question of whether XRP is a security dies out, because by that point, the label that regulators affix to it will be meaningless. Under the radar, the entire globe will be using it at a massive scale. When the adoption curve shifts from being speculative to being infrastructure-based, the $20,000 projection will no longer seem outrageous. Why? Because cost is always a function of value times speed and limited by supply. Supply is the sole remaining constraint as the utility grows global and the velocity approaches real time. Scarcity accomplishes precisely that. The available float will be steadily depleted with each burned fee, locked token, and private ledger settlement. Once that float is out, the price of XRP will no longer be based on charts, but on energy, the vitality of the economy coursing through each and every one of these buildings. At that point, you would understand that the path to $20,000 was not based on conjecture, but on structure. The final component that was lacking was privacy. Trust is no longer an issue when value can flow freely and undetected. When barriers to trust are removed, value can be transferred as quickly as a thought. When that happens, XRP finally realizes its potential, the silent, unseen lifeblood of the international monetary system. In the XRP Millionaire Blueprint, I've laid out all the information you need to know about the change, including how the statistics relate, the infrastructure develops, and how early adopters position themselves before the switch turns. I can see it everything. The schematic, the sub-schemas, the schedules, the complete picture will be presented to you before it even happens. See the pinned comment down below for the link.